Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. My guest today is one of Australia's greatest Olympians. Since retiring from swimming, Grant Hackett has built an impressive career in business and finance, including at Westpac and BT Financial Group. He's now the CEO of Generation Life, a business focusing on investment bonds. I want to talk to him today about investment bonds, about the superannuation sector, about the changes needed so that the industry remains fit for purpose, and how his success at the highest level of competitive sport prepared him for the business world. Plenty to cover there. Remember, this discussion is general in nature. Any discussion of investment products is for educational purposes only and doesn't take into account your personal circumstances. You should always seek professional advice before making investment decisions. Grant Hackett, OAM, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much for having me on, Sean.
So you've held world records. You've won Olympic gold, captained the Australian swimming team. Why'd you go from that to business? Because there's not actually a lot of sports stars that end up successful in business.
It's really interesting. It's actually something that I think I've been interested in just as long as swimming. So I always loved trading shares. I was always interested in markets, anything commerce related. Even when I was swimming, I was heavily involved in several different investments along the way. So for me, the transition into finance felt very, very natural. In fact, many, many years before my career ended, I actually sat down with Rob Coombe, who's now the chairman of our group here, our listed entity, Generation Development Group, and also spoke to a couple of other senior leaders within finance about, well, what should I be studying? What should I be doing now, preparing myself after sport to make sure I can make that transition as smooth as possible? So, just always a field that I loved, I was very interested in, and sitting in a position today that I absolutely love, and what we're doing for all of our customers and our investors is terrific. So, sort of getting a similar buzz as I was in swimming, but very, very different environments.
Firstly, well done jumping onto Rob Coombe's shirt tail, because he's been very successful in finance and very giving also to many other people in the industry. How hard was it to transition? And of course, you went from very high profile job to, I think, I'm going to get this wrong probably, but was it Westpac was your first high profile business job?
Yeah, that's right.
And everything that goes with it, because not obviously, you had personal challenges, as we all do, but yours were played out in the public spotlight. How hard was that to go from one career to the other when everyone was watching?
Oh, it's very difficult in the sense that you have this massive loss of identity. You go from being this sports person and almost the global CEO at what you do to going to Westpac on a Monday morning and not being the best at the table. So it's a very humbling experience. But I just worked out, if I roll up my sleeves, if I actually take the lessons that I took early in sport, just around my goal setting, my focus, making sure that I had those kind of short-term goals that felt like little wins along the way, you would get to a point that you'd feel really satisfied, and you kind of carving out a career outside of sport for yourself. So I very much took that tack. I think, going through personal challenges, public divorce and all those sorts of things along the way, they're things that you don't want to go through. They're things that you don't expect to gather so much interest in your personal life as you're an athlete. I never anticipated anything like that, but it almost becomes bigger news than what you achieved in sport. But I learned so many great lessons along the way. I don't want to have to go through a lot of that stuff again that I went through many years ago, but I learned so many great lessons that I think have made me a better leader in business. I think it's made me a better partner, a better dad. So I'm thankful for a lot of those lessons that I had along the way. And I think it makes me better at what I do today. And certainly a lot of those things are quite humbling experiences, as you can imagine, because being so public, they're ultimately amplified a lot more. So you really are tested as an individual.
Tell us about Generation Life, what you do.
So Generation Life is a life company.
It's in life insurance?
Life insurance, yes, that's correct. So we've got two core products that we sell. One's called an investment bond, which is the most tax-effective vehicle, after-tax paying vehicle outside of superannuation. So with a maximum tax rate of 30%, often the tax you pay is much, much lower than that. And then on the other side of the table, we've got a lifetime annuity. But we were really the first of its kind investment-linked lifetime annuity, where you can choose your own investment products, the same as your superannuation or your account-based pension, and have the flexibility to be able to switch in between, which we launched in March of last year. So, two core products. We're the market leader in investment bonds. We currently take 52% of all market inflows at the moment, and the business has grown materially over the past few years. We used to do about $100 to $130 million worth of inflows just 4 or 5 years ago, where we did over $600 million last year of inflows. So the business has grown quite materially. And to your point, Sean, having a leader like Rob Coombe at the top of this business, who's full of integrity and high value and performance, has certainly helped lift us as a team and grow this business materially.
Okay, I presume higher interest rates would also help out too when you're trying to sell investment bonds or annuities. I know one of your competitors, Challenger, in the annuity spaces, their result for the last half year was very strong on the back of sales of annuities. So presumably higher rates helps.
It's interesting for us in terms of our products. So we've got our products that are linked to fixed interest, sort of returns, which obviously that's where interest rates help. So certainly for people wanting to take a more conservative approach in their asset allocation and be a little bit more defensive, that's great if you don't like the volatility of markets. But on the other side, we give the full range of choice. You can have anything from, full growth products to, international equities through to Australian equities, through to fixed interest, through to cash. However you want to have that asset allocation, you can do that on our investment menu, and you can do that on both products, whether it's investment bonds or lifetime annuities. It's really one of our clear points of differentiation as a firm is that not only do we give investment choice, but we give the flexibility of change, which is a little bit different to, I guess, Challenger's traditional lifetime annuities. They had some outstanding results that were announced just last week. And, they've done a phenomenal job in terms of paving the way and educating financial advisors and a lot of their clients on how annuities works in your overall, I guess, investment portfolio to generate a return and cover off longevity and sequency risk. And we've certainly added a new dimension to that as a firm in terms of our investment-linked lifetime annuity. But at the end of the day, as a life company, a life insurance company, what we do is we sit here strategically and we try and develop products where people are going to obviously be able to get the best returns, but the most flexibility, so they've got that choice. And a lot of our inflows come through financial advisors. We work very closely with educating them and educating the market on how our products actually work and where they fit into the overall scheme of things.
Stay with me, Grant. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Olympian Grant Hackett OAM, Chief Executive of Generation Life. Okay, this week there's been plenty of talk about the future of super, and what you're talking about fits into that very neatly. The whole idea that the government could intervene to legislate to say superannuation has a specific purpose. And I know that the Premier talked about public housing, things like that, but he also talked about sustainability and, potentially, I suppose what he's hinting at is changing tax breaks for richer superannuants. Where do you think our sector's up to? Super has worked incredibly well since it was introduced, right? Is it time for change?
I think, we have to say with our super system, we've been the envy of the rest of the world in terms of what we've been able to accumulate in retirement savings for the average Australian. What's really interesting when you hear the commentary from Jim Chalmers is that, to preserve savings, I think has been the key word that he's kind of been articulating out in the public domain now. And look, are there going to be changes in super? I feel like that's pretty unequivocal. But really, when you reflect on it, that's nothing new. We saw the coalition government back in 2017 legislate the caps in superannuation. So, of course, it started out with that $1.6 million cap. Now that's 1.7. There was the contributions cap, concessional, non-concessional, and then the various other changes that obviously filtered through as part of that. So the narrative of change when it comes to super is pretty consistent. And I think this government has obviously taken that to the next level and saying, well, how much is enough inside your superannuation to satisfy your living requirements in retirement and make sure that that's comfortable? So I think we're going to see some changes. To what extent, we're all unsure. We're constantly hearing the narrative around the $5 million threshold as a maximum you're going to have inside super. But, we'll just have to wait and see what Jim Chalmers and, the rest of the Labor government have coming up for us in this May budget.
What about financial advisors? Here on Fear and Greed, we're great fans of financial advisors. And I know a lot about business just because I'm a journalist, not because I'm into it. I'm sorry, I don't know what you know, obviously, Grant, but just watching it, I know a lot about it. Yet I would never, ever make an investment without thinking about a financial advisor or a big investment without thinking about a financial advisor. How do we make financial advice more affordable for the general population?
Well, I think the quality of advice review is a start of that journey, because it's absolutely critical that the mums and dads of Australia actually have financial advice, particularly when it comes to decumulation, when they're in the retirement phase. Accumulation is difficult enough. You've got your mortgage, you've got your private school fees, if you will. You've obviously got, saving up for retirement and making sure that you're adequately insured along the way, just in case something unforeseen happens. So there's all this complexity, but really the complexity is more amplified when it comes to decumulation. And that's because you're obviously going into retirement. You've got this large pool of money. You think, how long is this going to last for? And then you've got all the tax considerations around that, the legacy and estate planning that you want to leave either to your children or to your grandchildren. You want to make sure that you're generating enough income to live comfortably, go on that holiday and do all the things that you need to do. But at the end of the day, you don't know how long you're going to live either. So from a Generation Life point of view, we really look at retirement as it's multifaceted, and it takes multiple products and great financial advice to achieve your own personal outcomes around that. So we consider 4 things absolutely critical as part of that phase of life. And one's your account-based pension and making sure that you receive appropriate advice around that. And that's obviously your access to capital. It's then looking at, well, what's my lifetime annuity? What sort of risk profile should be attached to my lifetime annuity? That's going to cover off my longevity and my sequencing risk. How does that help me access more of my government entitlements, such as your age pension? And then you've got to look at what are my non-super assets also doing for me as well. And you need great financial advice to understand how decumulation works, maximize and get, those emotive objectives and the way you want to live and the goals that you have and the aspirations that you have in retirement ticked off, and make sure that you've got the right product mix to be able to satisfy that at the same time. So financial advice is absolutely critical to achieve all of that.
What about, you talked about decumulation, and particularly if you're an annuity provider, one of the things about annuities which people dislike is the fact that they may not have as much to leave their children at end of life. Now, I'm not convinced that people should leave anything to their kids. Maybe it's personal. But the argument that we actually need to do a better job spending our money in that decumulation stage.
Well, it's quite funny. You look at a lot of the research, and actually the kids don't want it. They would prefer to see their parents have a great retirement. I'm in that bucket. I would love to see my parents absolutely maximize their retirement. And it's quite funny because when people, at age, whether it's age 60 or 65 or whenever they enter retirement and dial down their working hours or stop working completely, they're faced with this huge dilemma. On one hand, they go, I've got this big, pool of money, from my superannuation that I've saved over 40 years of working. That's got to last me the rest of my life, but I don't know when that is. But right now, in the first half of retirement is actually when you're physically able to really enjoy retirement. It's when you can go out and do the holidays and do all the things that you wanted to do to tick off the bucket list. In the back half of retirement, you want to know that you've got enough there to satisfy any health issues or anything else that you want to achieve through that part of it, but you can't really spend it there. And all the research shows that people materially spend a lot less money, particularly when they hit their late 70s, but really when they hit their 80s. They basically spend a lot less in relative terms. So, from that point of view, when you get to retirement, having a lifetime annuity is important because it just safeguards you that you're going to be able to cover off longevity risk, that you've got this consistent income stream, you're maximizing your age pension at the same time. But also a lot of these products, including ours, also have a death benefit available to them. So you're handing over a lump sum of capital for exchange for a lifetime annuity stream. But if you were to pass away earlier than anticipated, say before life expectancy, you're most likely going to receive a death benefit that will go to your estate. So a lot of these products have a lot of these concerns addressed. But at the end of the day, it's about maximizing income in retirement so you can actually enjoy retirement. And, there's this phrase that we've gone out to the market quite heavily with called regret risk. Going into retirement and living off the paint off the walls because you're so worried about how long you're going to live and how long that money is going to last you. Obviously, volatility in financial markets is always a concern, and falling off a cliff like a GFC. So there's all this anxiety and stress around retirement, so you don't spend. And then people get to the back half of retirement and they're like, oh my goodness, I've actually saved during my retirement, but now I can't spend it because I've physically, so to speak, depreciated too much and my health is not good enough for me to be able to enjoy it. And that's where regret risk kicks in, and that's something that we're trying to help financial advisors and their clients solve.
You are clearly an enthusiast for Generation Life, Grant. What do you prefer, gold medals or Generation Life?
I much prefer this now, to be totally honest. I'm equally as passionate about, finance and, all the financial products that we have here at Generation Life or more broadly in the industry. So, yeah, I'm not sure why I get such a kick out of it, but I certainly wake up in the morning, enjoying this every bit as much as, actually more so than doing those laps. I enjoyed the racing more in swimming, but not the training so much.
Oh, yeah, not surprised there. Grant, thank you very much for talking to Fear and Greed.
No worries. Thanks for having me on, Sean.
That was Grant Hackett OAM, Chief Executive of Generation Life. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Remember, this information is general in nature and you should seek professional advice before making any investment decisions. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.